Welcome to BamBam-O-Rama.
Welcome to BamBam-O-Rama. We got the schmeats.
We got the
How are
schmeats.
you today, Adrian?
I'm exhausted. How are you?
I am the opposite. I feel good. Kind of. I'm a little frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even you can't get yourself up anymore?
Is that like... Wait, is that an ED joke?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a masturbation joke.
It's a masturbation
joke. However you want to interpret it past that.
I mean, usually,
kind of
you're not wrong. Usually when I masturbate, I get the mirror right out in front of me. And that usually gives me a rock hard boner. But yeah, no, I'm not turned on by the look of my body
I have
anymore.
to mash the head of my dick against the mirror, so it's almost like it's touching, hands with another dick.
Like with another dick?
Like, like in prisons, like touching the window, it's like,
Yeah.
save me.
I like it.
My dick only gets hard for itself.
No, I was working out and I had sleds on my workout today, and I had bought myself a sled, and today was the first day I used it.
Just in the backyard there?
I did it in the front yard. So one of two things. Either this sled is not made to go on grass, or this sled is a complete piece of shit and I wasted my money. And I don't know which one it is, but it was a pain in the ass. Like, there was one set of sleds where I literally did not move. So I don't know if that even counts as working. I mean, I was pushing on the thing, but it was like staying still and like standing itself up on the end. You know what I mean?
Where'd you get it from? Amazon?
I ordered it from Rogue, which is supposed to make nice quality stuff. It's one of their cheapest ones, I won't lie.
Did you Google it?
I'm going to after we're done here. So yesterday, I finally sat down and started something that I had been wanting to do since we were in California. When we were in California, I was listening to a podcast where Robert Downey Jr. was the guest, and his big plug on that podcast was his show on Max, which is Downey's Dream Cars, which he takes cars and he does EV
conversions.
Conversion. Thank you. Conversion's the word. So he does EV conversions on them, and I was like, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to finally watch this. And I at first intended for it to just be background noise while I did some chores, but when I looked at the episode list, one caught my eye, and I was like, and it was the last episode, and I was like, I'm sitting down and watching this like immediately. I don't give a fuck.
What kind
of
car?
And it was Volkswagen bus. I'm not a big car guy, but if there is a dream car, it's that, or like a 60s Ford Bronco, or like a 60s Toyota Land Cruiser, 60s Jeep. I like those kinds of things. And now I kind of want to get I've always wanted to get a Volkswagen bus, but now I kind of want to get one and make it an electric conversion.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
I know that Volkswagen is making a new bus, which is going to be an EV.
There's already one in Europe.
They're not going to completely match that body style. And I don't know if that's because they don't want to do something that they did 60 years ago. Like, it's time to do something new and different, or what the deal is. But I mean, when they brought the bug back, they almost kind of copied it. It just looked more new.
Well, it's the same thing with like the Camaro and other cars like that.
Yeah. But your thoughts?
I'm sorry. They're just trying to make a modern version of it so that it appeals to everybody instead of just nostalgia. Plus, I mean, you're talking about two different materials. While
That's
you
true.
can definitely form the carbon and fiber and all that stuff to look however you want, there's still some structural stuff that you're not, that we all aren't really taking into account when we're thinking about old vehicles and their shape and look versus the newer vehicles.
It's true. But it did see Downey did a interview so I guess the format of the show, it's not just about converting old cars into EVs. I mean, I think that's the main thing. He's trying to kind of get car enthusiasts on board with EV cars, because a lot of people out there are hearing that we're moving to electric cars and they're like, nope, don't like it. Which, I mean, I kind of
It's a weird thing.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, they're faster. Like, if you want a fast car, like an EV is almost the way to go right now. It feels like
the guys that want the cars, they want it because of the combustion, like if they feel the roar and all that, which I get that. Don't get me wrong, but it's also, if you're not a car guy and that's your reason, like you're not like, spending an extra 10 grand on your car, like an actual car guy does regularly,
Right?
which is insane. But they do it. They're like crackheads. They find a way.
Oh
They
yeah,
start doing all these weird deals with their same car. Like they start selling cars back and forth to each other to make their shit happen. You know that?
it is crazy. Yes, I know.
It's
My
like literally
little
drugs.
my little brother's a car guy, and
Hmm.
he told me he sold like 10 cars last month because he likes to buy them. He likes to
Sure.
drive them for a minute, and then he likes to sell them.
Yeah.
But he does that all the time. And in fact, we were talking about cars a little bit when I was in San Antonio this past week, and I said something about how I love old cars. I'm not big into cars, but I like old cars. I just would never buy one because I feel like the two kind of people who buy old cars are either people who are willing to immediately dump as much money as they can into it to essentially make something they're never going to drive, or people who like to play with who work on engines as a hobby. And he was like, well, there's actually an inexpensive way to make these cars run and be something that I would want. And I was like, cool, maybe that's something I might actually start looking into because I don't know. I think it would be cool to have an old VW bus or an old Toyota Land Cruiser. Granted, getting a Land Cruiser body is going to cost a ton of money. Those are highly sought after. People love restoring those things.
And then the actual like conversion itself is like still 20K. It's alone, right?
I mean, I couldn't tell you what. I mean, Downey's doing it with. I don't know, and I don't know if it's all Downey's money, if those are like actual cars that are going into his collection, or if he's using HBO money. But you're probably right. I mean, I think you're at least looking at 20K to start the conversion. But I know, like on that VW bus, they were putting like Tesla batteries in it. Buying 6 Tesla batteries, honestly, probably going to cost you more or about as much as a Tesla would. I feel like.
So this is just, as usual, a quick search, but,
Okay.
skimming through it. First off, Google's first answer through Jerry Insurance, it says 25,000.
Okay.
But treehugger.com says about 20K is about what you're looking at. This was May 2022. Both of them are from May 2022. So
Okay.
we're still, in the, about there, about 20K. I think it probably depends on how old the car is too,
It does.
Because it did mention in that article that if you keep the transmission, that's the pricing. So there's apparently something bigger about the transmission that I would have thought of because I'm obviously not a car guy.
Well, that was one of the things I thought about because I mean, I'm not a big car guy, but there are still certain things that make me think about those cars. Like if I got an old Land Cruiser or an old Jeep CJ5 or CJ7 and I did an electric conversion, which I understand might piss off anybody listening. But if I did that, I would prefer for it to still have a manual transmission. But I just immediately assumed electric car doesn't get a manual transmission, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I have no idea.
It's like literally just forcing a gear system into that.
Right? I don't know. I don't know if that works. I know when Harley made their EV bike back when Age of Ultron came out. The only reason I know that is because that bike's in that movie. That thing's not a standard. It's a automatic transmission, and I was like, I feel like that's how electric works, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not a car guy.
Yeah. It's interesting because obviously we're from West Texas. We have a lot of oil field backed mentality, right? So
that's right, and I think that's a lot of the reasons. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's a lot of the reasons why so many people in this area are like anti-EVs. They worry that that's going to take away from the oil field, right?
It's kind of not inevitable, but it's like we all saw this coming for years.
Decades. Like when I was a child,
that's what I mean.
I knew, yeah,
exactly.
I was a child. I was like, one day we're going to have electric cars that don't even need to be charged. They're going to have solar panels on top. Like that movie Race Against the Sun, which was not a great movie. But
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds terrible. I've kind of already figured it out.
I mean, yeah, it's basically it's just a racing movie about people who built electric cars that ran off of solar power.
That sounds so dumb. I mean, it sounds like you can squeeze a story out of it, but you're definitely squeezing a story out of it.
Yeah, especially this came out in the 90s too. Like,
oh gosh,
yeah. But I mean, that's gonna be our future. Like that's how cars are going to be.
In my head, I see like floating, like basically drones that would have like a glass almost looking cage of solar panel around it, and that's our future vehicles somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether they're flying 200 feet or 20 feet above, the average street. You know what I mean? I don't know. Because I think that's what it is. I think we're going to end up in a Jetsons type thing where we don't high altitude fly those cars, but we obviously fly over the average building.
I think
there's going to be like little rules, like you can't fly over this neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. It's like there'll be fly lanes. So like obviously poor neighborhoods, kind of. But poor neighborhoods will have like more fly lanes over them and shit like that.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong, and it's fucked up to say that, but you're right. Like
because it's a real thing and it's gonna happen real fast. Like, and then it's gonna be immediate.
Then there's gonna be areas like non-rural areas. Like when I was in high school, me and the guys, I don't know why we did this in our 45-minute lunch break. It was stupid, but we'd hit the Taco Bell on North Midkiff. And then we'd go straight out. There was a little area of land out there that supposedly didn't belong to anybody. But as you get older, you learn that Texas does not.
To someone.
Everything belongs to somebody in Texas. Like there's hardly any public land. Right. But we would go mudding, on our lunch break. So that's with hover cars or fly lane cars like you're talking about. You're gonna have the same thing. There's gonna be that little area where the kids go do like weird little flips and shit, and of course it's going to be easier to get busted.
Can you imagine? Like, okay, I'm thinking we had a place called Water Wonderland that was a water park in West Texas. It shut down. Kids started breaking in, graffiti, skateboard, etc. So in the future, are like old sports centers going to be like where people go and like do a little car racing circuit on the walls of the the empty arena or whatever?
I mean, probably
shit like that.
Like
they're gonna find spots, right, to do this kind of fun things. Because I'm thinking about those RC drones where they're racing them. It's usually an abandoned building, full size.
That's pretty cool.
Drones.
All right, so
this is real pod racing. You know what I'm saying?
Real pod racing. God, that pod racing scene. If only they made it like maybe. Not even just like a couple minutes longer. If that was the whole crux of the movie, I think it would have been so much better. I'm totally kidding. I hope you know that. I
have so many questions for the original or not the original, but the prequel trilogy. I have so many questions for the sequel trilogy. Why are they doing this? I don't understand how people are still fans of Star Wars after being slapped in the face twice by the corporate mega structures that have purchased it and have just bastardized it for the last since the prequel trilogy, in my opinion.
Right.
It's like just gone downhill from there.
I get you. And in my opinion, I'm not as big of and this could be due to how terribly I view the sequel trilogy. I'm not as big of a prequel hater as most people who didn't like the prequels. I'm also not a prequel trilogy fan, for the record. I think Revenge of the Sith is a very well written movie and is up there not only in the prequel trilogy but in the entire Star Wars saga. However, those first two movies were fucking awful. Like, and also it's hard to watch Hayden Christensen act. I hate to say that, but he did not do. And I don't know, maybe
Anakin.
Oh, and the other kid that played Anakin too, Josh Lloyd.
Really bad actors.
Yeah. Well, I do question Hayden Christensen because I feel like it might have been bad directing, and maybe I'm giving him more.
I don't know anything else he's been into. Yeah, I don't know.
He hasn't been. I don't think there's much of a.
I know there's at least one other feature I saw him like kind of on, but I'd never went and watched it or nothing.
I think I said Josh Lloyd. I think the other kid was Jacob Lloyd. I'm sorry. I don't think he's been in any other movie. I think he's in prison right now.
He's in jail or something.
Yeah.
Jake Lloyd.
Jake Lloyd. Also, back when Disney World used to do the Star Wars weekends, which they stopped when they opened up, Galaxy's Edge, or I guess that when they just came up with the idea for Galaxy's Edge, they decided to stop Star Wars weekends. But one of the first ones I went to, there was a meet and greet with Jake Lloyd. There was 3 meet and greets going on. I honestly can't tell you who it was because I went to like 3 Star Wars weekends, and people get mixed up. I think Ashley Eccleston was one of them when there was Jake Lloyd. She was a usual one because she was one of the hosts. She was the girl that voiced cartoon Ahsoka. There was 3 meet and greets you could go to. The other 2 guys, apparently from someone I was talking to who was standing in the line for one of the shows we were going to go watch, he said that the other 2 were like cool and would hang out past the 2 hours that they were booked for. And they were like, oh yeah, like especially if they could see the end of the line, they'd be like, okay, like there's 50 people here, we can get this done in 30, 40 minutes, bring these people, like producers or staff would like cut it off at the end of that line, but yeah, Lloyd, like as soon as 3:00 hit, I'm making that number up, I don't know if that's what time it was, but as soon as his time hit, he was like, I'm done, I don't give a fuck about the rest of the people, booked or not. And I'm not saying he's an asshole, I think he has every right to do that, but I think a lot of that has to do with how much shit he got for being a terrible actor in the first movie. Also kind of telling on to what he did years later to become a criminal.
He's like schizophrenic now. I forgot. Jake Lloyd?
Yeah.
He only popped up because I had searched up Hayden and it said like people also search for,
I will say this, because you said you don't know why people are still Star Wars fans. What Disney Plus has given us Star Wars fans has been awesome. All those TV shows are great, and I do appreciate them. I can't defend the sequel trilogy. I think it was a bad choice to bring the Emperor back as the villain. I don't understand that choice. It was like these all 9 of these movies are going to be the Skywalker saga. So even though we already killed off the main villain in the 6th movie or the 3rd movie, whichever way you kind of look at that, but you know what I mean. Episode 6 specifically, we killed off that villain. That was the villain for 6 movies. We're going to bring him back in the last 20 minutes of the 9th movie. And it's going to shock everybody.
That guy back to life after he got stabbed in the stomach by that chick. I don't even remember the names of these characters. He was like the bald guy with the white face and like the red markings. I forgot. I don't even remember which show this was. It might have been Obi-Wan.
Was he a Grand Inquisitor? Yeah, that was probably.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. And they were like, oh, the Force kept him from dying. It's like, now you guys are really getting lazy.
Well, they did introduce... they introduced Force healing in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, they just keep introducing all of these things to fix their bad writing. There's a difference between having abilities within a magical force and just continuously, every time you run into a roadblock, the Force. That's so lazy. And this is my problem. Is that everybody that likes Star Wars, they're like, no, it's fine. We like Star Wars. So we accept it. So just because you like it doesn't mean you have to accept the shittiness that they keep feeding you. That's like the problem with America. Quit ingesting bad stuff.
I don't think it's everyone who likes Star Wars.
Have you seen what Star Wars is right now? It's everybody except bullshit.
It's not everybody. There's a huge argument between fans. There constantly has been. There's and those same people arguing still go to the Star Wars place to buy the blue drinks and stuff. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Oh, I'm gonna go to Galaxy's Edge, even though I didn't like the sequel trilogy. I am allowed to do that. Was every Star Trek movie good?
But you're also feeding the flame of mediocrity.
Was every Star Trek movie good?
Better on average than the Star Wars ones.
No.
I can say that with 100% confidence, and I bet you.
Yes or no? Was every Star Trek movie good?
Yep.
You don't have your own opinions?
Nope.
Okay. There was a call out by it seemed like it was split down the middle, but I can't give you actual percentages. There was a call out by some fans that wanted the sequel trilogy to be stricken from canon, which I think is a bit much. I think it's fine.
I will go and say that same thing. I will say that's too far.
Yeah. If you don't like those movies, that's fine. I don't like those movies. But to say I want them removed from the stories I like, that's kind of silly. Just wait till they give us something else, and let's hope it's better than what we had to deal with in the past. Is the way I feel about it.
I mean, yeah, it's such a large universe. You can do things like only hang on. For instance, like I love Rogue One. Out of everything
One's
that's come
amazing.
out,
Yeah.
Rogue One is a beautiful cinematic piece of work. It's a beautiful story. It's the best Star Wars story that I've seen on the screen since the original trilogy. I would say by hands down, just because of its flow and structure. It doesn't even have all of the bells and whistles, but it's done right. Instead of checking boxes, they actually wrote a story. It's so annoying whenever I'm not talking about the Star Wars thing anymore, but I've thrown out before that there are people that, that are out there that don't belong in Hollywood and writing and stuff. It's not saying that I'm, some new, like, oh, I'm going to come and change it because I want to start doing that. Of course I know I'm not that guy.
Yep.
Like, who the fuck thinks they're that person? But it's not only objective, I think, as an observation, because I think almost anyone can agree with this statement. But what I'm talking about is those higher up, the people, basically the who everyone's arguing against right now. All these higher ups that make those decisions to do that cut something short to make the story not work because budget, but they still want their fight scene, so you can't cut that from the budget. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know all the excuses because I'm not intimately involved, but you see all of these failed stories because whether it's the money guy, saying, I don't like it, I want this story and I'm the money guy, so you do what I say, or it's the older writer that's the top writer that just simply doesn't budge because they've got tenure, and guess what? I'm in charge whether you guys like it or not, and that's kind of how it works right now. It's not just old blood. It's people that are given roles because they were friends with somebody, because they know someone, because they're related to someone, they were born into it. There's all sorts of these levels, and of course it's not the same for each person. And I'm not saying just kick everybody out of the world of, jobs they want to be in. Of course I'm not saying that. If that's what your assumption is when I say stuff like that, then whoa, you got something else going on how could you assume that anyway? Much less hold that in the back of your mind anyway. The point is that we all have done it, right? Whether it's a Star Wars thing, whether it's a restaurant food chain, McDonald's and Taco Bell, etc. And I'm not even saying that those two are even that bad. I'm just using mediocrity incarnate as an example. Hell, Demolition Man used them as the best example. Because if you guys don't know, Demolition Man, it's Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes. Taco Bell is the best restaurant in the world in that movie. You have to watch that movie, if nothing else, to figure that out. Also, it has Dennis Leary in it, one of the few comedians that you can say is a long-lost hidden gem out there. Because where did Dennis Leary go? He went into TV series fireman thing and then disappeared now. Rescue Me is what it was called.
Rescue Me.
And then, you know what he did right after that? And you would love this. 5 years later, he did a show about a rock star. And guess what the rock star's name was? Johnny Rock.
Oh, was it really? Nice.
Yeah. But it's fun that that's the name that they use. I know it's, again, a really generic, a lot of similar names in there, but
yeah, it could have been fun. Like Rocky Bob, Bobby Rock.
Yeah, I just think it's a fun fact. But yeah, so I mean, going back to Demolition Man, it's a great movie. You should watch it. Also, it they have like electric cars ish. So maybe. Going back to Star Wars in that, because Star Wars has almost like a fifth element where they're flying like not above the buildings, but the buildings are also like super skyscrapers, like 50, 60, 100 stories tall.
Yeah, specifically on
kind of
flying.
Yeah. Right. And they're kind of flying like mid. Well, and that's a good point too, right? I'm thinking of that one specific, Ewan McGregor jumping from the, whatever the craft is called, scene. And then other cities, they're traveling on the ground even.
Yeah. You see like on, what's it called? Tatooine. That thing.
Oh, sure. They're speeders. Yeah.
That speeder doesn't go high at all.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, literally.
That's also the difference between money too. Like Coruscant is a rich city. Tatooine is a farming city. Or sorry, planets. These are planets, not cities.
But. So then, are those vehicles for quote unquote for the poor because they're not capable of it, and like it's a fuel thing, or do you think it's because poor people are less likely to be adventurous because they want to stay close to the ground, they feel safer, and it's like a adventurous. You know what I mean?
That's a good question. Owen did not want to leave his home. He did not want to leave Tatooine.
Like
and
one of
that's why
his things is that he's like, no, we're safe here.
Yeah.
Everything's cool. And then
That's why he didn't
earned
want
crispy
Luke to go
nugget.
join the revolution. He was like, nah, dude.
Yeah.
Like
this
I
is
want
safe.
you here. And he always had an excuse
Don't you want to
to
just
keep
be a
Luke
fucking
here. Yeah.
farmer?
Yeah. So I mean that's a good argument. Like, is it because that's what he could afford? I mean, I'm sure he's farming. He's the only farmer I've seen on Tatooine, so I'm assuming he's thriving. He's got a nice home.
What is the main fuel source for vehicles and transport in Star Wars?
Ooh, I don't know.
Do they even acknowledge that? And I'm sure somebody has, right?
Somebody has. They had to have. I don't know.
Because then there's like so many more parts to that, right? Obviously, I don't think for a Death Star or whatever, the battle cruiser, you're going to use the same fuel for a speeder. But
surely not.
There's still a lot more to that. I think there's a lot of fun that somebody with a more focused mind could have on those, stats. I would be definitely interested, but I don't have the patience to go do that myself. and do you think they could be battery type source?
I think it depends. The TIE fighters specifically do have solar panels on their wings. In fact, their wings are practically made up of them.
Well, let me go past that. I don't know what the process is called, but I know how to do it in a way. So you can take some non-conductive, i.e. wooden sticks, right? Take some screws. You don't screw them all the way through, and you just kind of make these two kind of touching parallel bars. You put some sodium and baking soda, like elements, minerals, into water, and then like kind of cap it off, and you can do some processes, and this will generate a small amount of energy. That's batteries in a nutshell, right? Batteries, lithium, it's just layers of metal folding over with different acids in there that are now making a heat of sort and then creating an energy that's expelled in electricity, right? So what I'm getting at is that whether it be Coruscant or any of these other thousands of planets, there could be a secondary, or rather a third gas, i.e. oxygen, CO2, and let's just say Star Wars gas, that's non-harmful to oxygen-breathing humanoids and such, but they also would just be able to, in the open air, because just like oxygen is in a sense a liquid, right? Or whatever we call it, we just move through it in our way because that's how our physical bodies can move through it. Well, this other gas might respond differently to an element that you just simply, basically, like in a cheap Futurama type twist, you could essentially have like a floating Dorito, and it's just simply that Dorito's just magically responding to this other gas in the air, and it's expelling energy that's harnessed within. Sorry, I had that thought, and it sounded really fun.
No, yeah. I think it's crazy. It is wild what energy is. And I like that you brought up Futurama. One of my favorite things about Futurama is when when they explain things in Futurama on how things work. Like their ship doesn't move through the universe. The ship moves the universe around it.
Well, there's a lot of high praise for the mathematics and the physics written into that show from the science community because the writers are that good at it. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Anybody listening, you should go look for it because it's funner than if I were to try to explain it because I'd bastardize it. But there's just a lot of fun stuff on the math side of that.
No, you're right. I'm looking forward to Futurama coming back
tomorrow.
So it's the 24th.
Yeah.
That means I need to binge all previous 8-9 seasons now.
And then I want to say that the next episode's scheduled for the 1st, so the following Tuesday, but I don't know how many episodes are scheduled. So yeah, and it's on Hulu. So anybody listening, if you need that information, there you go. Tomorrow.
We've been all over. We did a little bit of HBO, but we've been all over Disney today, haven't we?
Well, the biggest thing is we've been trying to keep it around flying cars and electronic cars. That's true. In that sense.
Do you think? How far do you think we are away from hovering and flying cars? Like you technically can, like for $150K, go buy a car that transforms into a plane right now. I think it's $150K last time I saw it.
I don't know if I saw it was clickbait or what, but let's see. Anybody. Okay, usatoday.com. The first flying electric car, Model A, approved by the FAA, and it's 100% electric.
Of course it is.
I can't click buttons for the life of me.
I mean, I know it's a running joke on how bad I am at technology, but like we kind of talked about last night, I feel like technology just doesn't like me. most of the time. It's like, here's this link, and everybody clicks on it, and it works. And I'm like, I'm going to click on it. And they're like, wait, was that Jackson? It's not.
My brother has so many cell phone problems. I swear he's a walking EMP. I just swear he's got some sort of electric field around him that's just fucking up phones.
When you were talking to me the other day, you said something about how much bad luck I've had since I switched to Samsung. I had the same bad luck back when I had iPhones. I still had to go through like 1 or 2 iPhones a year. People get to hold their phones for like 2 or 3 years with no problems, unless their name is Jackson or Jay. Apparently.
I mean, it just happens though. You know?
Sorry, I derailed us. We have a car that can fly that's been approved. What does that mean though? Like, we're still decades away from consumers, right?
I don't think so. I think this is something that someone's actually been on the ball. I want to say that there's going to be either after this FAA approval thing gets to its next phase, because it's obviously not done. Otherwise, we'd see a commercial about it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Come on down to, Planet Ferd, where you can get yourself a flying motherfucking car and a 12 gauge to go.
Oh, God.
Skate, motherfucker. Just don't shoot down your neighbor.
I've got to get out of West Texas before that happens.
Fuck no, dude. Man, you can get a free shotgun. What are you talking about? Just don't shoot down your neighbor.
But there's going to be like shit tons of engineers and shit like helping work it, not just designing the plane.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Or the plane car, like also coming up with how to make the whole situation work, because then we have to open fly lanes.
I think someone's already got it.
You think someone's working? I'm not even saying that. I wouldn't say that's the next step. That there has to be this team of people already planning this out.
That's what I'm saying. As I think after we get to next phase, whoever you're describing, we're gonna get like a big press conference and it's like, and by the way, we now have the Jackson method.
Yeah,
and it's thanks to Victoria Jackson here, and she's gonna be like, and so it came to me because I saw hummingbirds flying and fucking in the air, and I was like,
right,
it just makes sense. You know what I mean?
God,
that's how we're gonna have the flying lane.
I want more than anything for that to be 100% factual. Please, let the designation of fly lanes or whatever we call them be designed off of hummingbirds fucking.
Yeah, it'll be
not even the mating habits of hummingbirds. I was watching.
Yeah, no, this is, I actually noticed the hummingbirds were actually just fucking for pleasure. This was not a procreation fuck, for sure. It's very different when they fuck in the air. The lanes, you can see them when they're fucking in the air. It's all these perfect lanes. The jism, it's like a mist directing you in the right lane.
So there's a specific height that commercial airlines usually fly at. There's a specific height that smaller airlines, personal planes, I guess personal is the best way to say that.
Personal craft, yeah.
Personal craft are going to fly at. So then there's going to be something lower for these cars. And I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to be in like an F-250 or like, I'm just throwing a Ford out there. You wouldn't want to be in a Ford and take that all the way up to commercial airline height. You'd probably suffocate, right? Like
for several reasons. And all with that being said is like, have you ever watched an air traffic controller thing? It's madness. It's insane.
I've seen TV depictions of them. I've never watched it actual happen, and I don't know which one's more. I don't know how accurate it, because I've seen, and in TV you either see it being absolutely mad or you see it being super chill. How fast do you think these cars would go? I just thought about this. So, and I have a point that
I want to say 200.
200. So like potentially,
I didn't look, but I want to say,
potentially, and that's in air, right? So potentially, if I got a job in Dallas, maybe not Dallas, if I got a job in Lubbock, from where I'm at right now, Lubbock is a 2-hour drive. If we were going 200 miles an hour, that would probably be a 45 to an hour minute, or an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. I could work in Lubbock and still live here if I wanted to, based on this idea.
Part of that problem is if you allow people to fly straight to their destinations, then you have to have traffic control.
You do.
Well, but if you restrict flights to natural patterns or designated patterns, left and right, restricting it to really, rudimentary patterns, it might get different. So it might not be worthwhile for everyone, but overall it would be effective. Yeah. You have to restrict the general public at least a little bit, at least in the infancy of it, to figure it out.
Oh, absolutely.
Most importantly, I think it's going to be fun to see the children start figuring out how to, whether it's hack these systems or just simply be allowed to drag race in the sky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've got it's kind of like Back to the Future, where food's all where it's like not, I guess, dehydrated is what they're saying it is in Back to the Future, where they put in this rehydration machine. But kids got like some Tide Pods in their pocket, you know, and they're just popping these bad boys back, and they're like, "Hey,
the Tide Pod phase is over."
Well, not in the future. It's coming back.
I was going to come back.
Don't you know? Huh?
Yeah, that's true.
So they're popping these now. These aren't Tide Pods though. These are actual food. Is what I'm saying. It's coming back, but it's been rebranded. They're bringing it back.
But they're going to be. But Tide will be making them. Right?
Yeah, it's Tide brand, but not Tide detergent anymore. They're like, we figured it out, guys. We heard you loud and clear. You don't want laundry detergent. You want food from us. We're making the pods. We brought it back. This one's beef bouillon. So yeah, they're kids are popping these Tide Pods, and they're like, you see that Williamson kid over there? He just flipped us off. He said he's gonna beat us to the teleportation lab, or no, to the time machine. Go fuck your mom in the past. Oh, not on my watch. We're gonna race him, and then it flings up the pod in real slow motion, and now that's pod racing.
All of
that just to make that line.
Make that stupid joke.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to my dad joke there at the end. We really appreciate it here at BamBamORama. Want you to know that we've got our live streams Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central on Twitch and YouTube, or YouTube rather.
Yep.
So whatever your preference is there. We've got this podcast airing Sundays at 9 p.m. or on YouTube for the video version on the following Monday at 3 p.m. And of course, check out our TikTok where we're talking away. I don't know what to say.
Talking away. We do. Make sure you check out Jeremy Calley Guitars Trailer Made. Links in the description. And Louie the Liars. Yes. Currently working on a new album. We will let you know. We will get information on that and let you know when they're out. But you can also check them out right now. He is on Instagram, but you can listen to the music on Spotify. Based on things that I've heard, why don't you listen to him on Apple Music? Because apparently musicians are making more money off of Apple Music plays right now than they are in Spotify plays. So, do us a favor. Jackson's Lost Cause is also on Apple Music. So
you're going to get some links to that stuff. I'm even going to give you guys a little bit of sneak peek right now of Louie the Liars.
Ooh.
And now my breath, it never comes down, because you hang the moon for me now. So baby, won't you come around, so I can take you out on the town. And I feel it in my aching bones, like the sound of rain giving up, like the bar stools where my heroes drink too much. And I wish I wrote the songs like Springsteen, just like Springsteen, baby. 'Cause I think you saved me one time from a bad dream. But tonight, can't make my heart take flight. 'Cause I can't.
And if you enjoyed that, make sure you do go check them out on Spotify. So again, as always, I'm Adrian.
I'm Jackson.
We love you, babies.
Love ya.